The hospital monitor beside John Tanner's bed screamed a steady, relentless 106 degrees Fahrenheit. For 100 agonizing days, he didn't just run a fever. His own biology became a crucible, cooking him from within. The sterile air of his room grew thick with the scent of hot, dry skin and the faint, metallic tang of fear. Doctors could only watch, their charts useless, as the man before them simmered in a private, biological hell. Every cell in his body felt like it was bathed in liquid fire, a sensation so profound it drowned out all other thoughts. This is not a story of a sickness that invades, but of a body that revolted, turning its own warmth into a weapon of slow, excruciating torture. And the most terrifying question hung in the air, heavier than any diagnosis. What if the furnace could never be turned off? And when the fire finally went out, what remained inside his skull wasn't John anymore. This is John Tanner, a devoted husband to Sarah and father to 2 young children. His life was filled with ordinary joy, but that ordinary world was about to be consumed by a horror that would leave only a hollow, unrecognizable shell. He was a structural engineer from Columbus, a man whose world was built on measurable certainties. To his family, he was a loving husband to Sarah and a goofy dad to Lily and Ben. His life followed predictable rhythms, blueprints at work, weekend soccer games in the park. He rested in the quiet conviction that reality obeyed logical rules. A subtle, dry cough. Home video footage glitches. It began in early March. A persistent headache, a bone-deep chill. John believed it was just the flu. His doctor agreed. But the mercury in the thermometer whispered a different, more sinister truth. The digital readout glared at him. 102 degrees. A metallic scent, like hot iron, suddenly filled the air around him. The numbers on the monitor ticked up. 103, 104. It climbed, defying every medical expectation, refusing to descend. The air in the room grew thick with the sterile scent of antiseptic, now laced with the faint, metallic tang of ozone. A low, persistent hum from the machinery was the only sound, a mechanical heartbeat in the silent ward. John lay in bed, his skin slick with fever sweat as Sarah clutched his hand, her face a mask of dread. They rushed him to St. Vincent's, where the cold, antiseptic air carried the faint, metallic scent of ozone from the humming machines. A battery of tests began, a relentless, clinical assault beneath the sterile glare of fluorescent lights. Each procedure was a whisper in the dark, probing for answers to a sickness that defied all reason. Bacterial, viral, fungal, autoimmune. Every vial of blood drawn, every scan, returned a maddening blank. There was no enemy to fight, only the relentless, consuming heat. The air grew thick with the sterile scent of antiseptic and the faint, metallic tang of fear. Each unanswered test deepened a primal dread, a paralysis against the invisible. Inside him, a sun with no off switch continued its relentless burn. Day 10 dawned, marked by the metallic scent of ozone in his sterile room. The air grew heavy and damp against his skin as the fever charts climbed into the red zone. Each heartbeat echoed the low, dissonant hum now woven into the hospital's silence. The heat was a physical weight, crushing them at 105 degrees. John's mind began to fracture under its pressure. He turned to Sarah, his voice a dry rasp, and told her the ceiling tiles were whispering numbers, coordinates to a place they should not go. Then his gaze shifted to the walls, where he saw them. Impossible, intricate gears of black iron and brass, turning silently within the plaster. The air grew thick with the smell of hot metal and old dust, the only proof he wasn't dreaming. Sarah's voice trembled as she described the fevered vision. He'd gesture weakly toward the IV stand, whispering, "Can't you see it? The silver tree is growing." His fear was palpable, a raw, primal terror that seemed to radiate from his burning skin. Touching him felt dangerous, like reaching toward a live wire. Day 25, his fever spiked to 106.2 degrees, forcing doctors into a desperate gambit, a medically induced coma. But beneath that artificial stillness, a silent horror unfolded. His own body had turned against him. It was not fighting an infection, it was consuming itself. Muscle and tissue, devoured from the inside out to fuel a metabolism gone rabid. The only sound in that sterile room was the low, relentless hum of the machines, keeping him tethered to a life his own biology was trying to erase. His organs were beginning to simmer in the broth of his own blood. Doctors used cooling blankets, ice baths, a constant slurry of antipyretics. It was like trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. "Sarah, we've ruled out everything." His hypothalamus, his brain's thermostat, wasn't merely broken. It shrieked, having forgotten what normal even felt like. A metallic tang, like cold iron, coated the back of his throat with each ragged breath. Every surface he touched was clammy and slick, as if the room itself was sweating with fever. Narrator. Day 50. The fever plateaued at a hellish 107 degrees, a temperature that cooks brain tissue, that denatures proteins. For a human, this isn't sickness, it's something else entirely. This was a slow, biological cremation. The MRI scans revealed the horrifying truth. John's gray matter, the fabric of his memories, his personality, his very self, was being poached. A metallic scent of ozone filled the room as the realization settled. Neural pathways dissolved like wax under a blowtorch, as John Tanner's own biology consumed him cell by cell. His consciousness was being methodically scrubbed from existence. Then, the music cut abruptly, leaving only the steady, monotonous beep of a heart monitor. The sterile air carried the faint, metallic scent of ozone and decay, the smell of a mind being unmade. On day 100, the fever broke with brutal suddenness. It crashed to normal in a handful of hours, the furnace inside him finally guttering out. The oppressive heat that had been his world for months dissipated, leaving behind a hollow, unnatural chill. In its wake settled not relief, but a deep, unsettling quiet. The silence of a storm that has passed, but left the landscape forever altered. The medical team stood frozen, confronted by a miracle they could scarcely comprehend. Sarah crumpled, her relief a tangible wave that filled the sterile air with the faint scent of ozone and antiseptic. A heavy, expectant silence settled over the room, broken only by the soft, rhythmic beep of monitors. Then, John's eyelids trembled, and slowly, they parted. They were hollow, vacant. John searched Sarah's eyes and found only emptiness. But when consciousness finally reclaimed him, the bed beside him was empty. The sound of tearing paper echoed in the sterile quiet. Now, in the rehabilitation facility's hushed light, John could only stare at a photograph, the faces within it a haunting mockery of what was lost. He touched his own face in the photograph, utterly bewildered. The damage was total, a psychic annihilation. Anterograde amnesia. His future was a blank page he could never write on. Retrograde amnesia. The past was a city reduced to ashes, and Sarah was a ghost among the ruins. He didn't know his children, their faces as unfamiliar as the hands he now stared at. Pale, alien tools resting in his lap. Sarah's voice broke as she whispered, "I brought him his favorite book." He turned the pages, his fingers tracing the ink as if deciphering strange, crawling insect tracks. The air in the room grew thick and stale, carrying the faint, metallic scent of old paper and forgotten things. He remarked, "These symbols are pretty. A 40-year-old man relearning the world from its foundations." But the truth was far more unsettling. A chilling reality that gnawed at the edges of his fragile understanding. The air in the room felt thick and heavy, carrying a faint, metallic scent that clung to the back of his throat. Each block he placed seemed to echo with a soft, hollow sound, amplifying the growing dread that settled deep within him. His movements were clumsy, almost childlike, yet his face remained intensely focused. The fever hadn't just erased memories. It had rewired his very being. John's engineering intellect was obliterated, his spatial reasoning reduced to dust. His ability to sequence events vanished into the static of a scrambled mind. But in that searing heat, bizarre new pathways had fused together. Therapist. He possesses a form of synesthesia we've never documented. It's not colors from music. He tastes emotions. He told me my anxiety tasted like burnt aluminum and stale crackers. Your daughter's laughter, he said, tasted like the color yellow in cold water. Sarah brought him home. The house he designed, the life he built, was now a museum to a stranger. In the sunroom, John sits, intently watching a bird outside, his head tilted. He looks peaceful, but utterly distant. A single, sad piano chord repeats, underscoring the profound, hollow quiet that has replaced the man she once knew. He is gentle. He finds profound fascination in the simplest things. The texture of carpet under his fingers, the silent, curling steam from a cup. He sometimes smiles at Sarah with a pure, vacant warmth that fractures her heart more deeply than any rage could ever hope to. I love him, but I'm mourning him every single day. The man I married died in that fever. What came back is a sweet, confused ghost living in his skin. His hands are always cold now, and he smells faintly of damp earth. Sometimes, at night, I hear him whispering to someone I cannot see. His face held a profound, unsettling innocence. So what is the price of survival? John Tanner's body won its war against an invisible, self-made hellfire. But the victory was annihilation. The man he was is gone, cooked away into nothingness. Only echoes remain, trapped in a rebuilt, broken mind. He survived the impossible. But who exactly lived?